girls, and welcome to another episode of the Hey Girl podcast. We're your hosts, Bethany Needham
and Laurie Casagrande.
And each week, we get to share with you stories from women of all ages and stages of life who are following Jesus right where they're at.
Our prayer is that each story encourages you to run your race in your place.
Okay, listeners, we are here at the end of season 2. We have officially finished 30 episodes. This is episode 30. This is crazy. And that's just for season 2. That means a total of 60 episodes of the Hey Girl podcast. So here's the deal. We're going to come from this episode. We're going to have a few weeks off where you're going to get to Mondays. We are going to release some of our best of episodes, some of our favorites from the past. And so for those of you who maybe you just found Hey Girl, maybe you just, you've gotten behind, life is busy, this is going to give you a chance to do all of your catch-up listening so that when season 3 launches this fall, you are all caught up and you haven't missed even one story. But since last year, we did a wrap-up episode, and I brought in a special guest, and it was so well received, which I'm not surprised because, when you bring in such a high-profile guest like Andy Needham from the Andy Needham Band, I just feel like our listens went up, the popularity went up. Would you agree, Andy?
This will be edited out.
No, you can't. People have to know what it's really like between us. So, Andy, last year I talked you into this for the first time, and you were so brave. I'm so proud of you.
And this year you basically had no time to record a 30th episode, so you forced me to do it again.
Okay, so...
Strategic planning, not so much the strength of Bethany.
So. No, it's not. But you know what? It's worked out really well because this is kind of what I wanted to do again. And now right. I forced your hand and you're here. Right. So now that you're here...
It's a story of our marriage.
I love you too, Schnookums. So I realized that Laurie and I have done the intros and outros, so people have already heard how we feel about each and every episode. But as the producer, you also listen more times than anyone else because you have to do all of the editing, which, let's be real, when it's me, that's...
So easy.
It's well played. So I have a couple of questions for you, and I would love to just hear your perspective. One, it's nice to hear a guy's perspective because we have definitely discovered this season more than any other that there are a lot of closet male listeners out there who are totally committed to the Hey Girl podcast. So you are speaking for them, but also as someone who's really had to listen intently and closely to every single episode. So I'll start with an easier one.
Well, let me first say, this has been awesome. It's really cool to see, we do all this work, and people are listening to this thing. So that's awesome. That's a great thing. You guys have done an amazing job, and you've gotten great guests. I think it was really cool. One thing I loved about this season is we had a lot of people that we already knew, and then we had a lot of people that we didn't know at all. And it was a mix of people who maybe have larger platforms and people who don't have platforms, and this was giving them a platform. So that was awesome.
It's been a fun season. It's been not an easy season. And some of that is that our lives have been a little crazy. But as God often does, even in our not all togetherness, he has still managed to do some pretty amazing things. And we were saying that the other day, the listening, the numbers are going up. We're seeing still a lot of growth, which is just amazing to me. But I'm curious about you. In this season, as you listened and as you had to do all of this every morning, editing, what episode of all of season 2 was your most difficult episode to edit, and explain why?
All right. Well, so we have talked about these things before, but this will be kind of behind the curtain for the listeners. So I tease Bethany a lot because she has a harder time interviewing people that she already knows. When it's somebody and she has a harder time interviewing, or I say this to say this. it's harder for you to be brief when you're sitting with someone actually having a cup of coffee versus it being over Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or whatever platform we're using to record. So
guilty as charged.
So that was always the thing. So I like pretty much always be like, all right, you just gave me like a 120-minute long interview. Now I need to get this thing down to a reasonable time. So we love long form because it lets tell the story. But so that's the first thing I'd say is that
we feel a lot of feelings when we're in
well,
person.
it's fine. Yeah, I get it, but it's a long edit. So maybe more people you don't know next. No, I'm just kidding. So I would say, and this is kind of funny because this is someone I work with every day in my job, but is Alyssa Bell, who our family loves Alyssa, amazing woman of God and incredible servant and does a lot of great things, and love working with Alyssa. But you guys,
I feel like you're buttering her up to now.
Yeah. Well, no. See, the thing is,
gavel.
it wasn't that the interview was bad. It was just that you guys. I think it was like during a winter camp weekend or something. It was something crazy.
We were brain dead.
Yeah. No.
Yes.
I know that it was like at the end of the day, and you were both tired. So like, I think there was like 25 minutes of just like laughing about the dog. Which is not surprising. That's part of Alyssa's personality, which is fine. But
I forgot about that. There was a lot of olive interruptions.
Yeah. If you really want to know like about Alyssa, actually this week we found a Twitter account. I found it actually, and I sent it to her. I sent it to you as well. But there's actually a Twitter Enneagram account for dogs called Enneadog at Enneadog, and you can find out what your dog is.
What Enneagram number your dog is.
So that's pretty much a summary.
That's pretty incredible.
No, that's great. But that was a hard edit because I was like, all right, how do I... You guys were just like cackling up a storm. Like...
It's because I love her.
I know, it's great.
Okay, so kind of in line with that then, I'm wondering, of all of the episodes that you had to edit, and you have been pretty open about this, that sometimes you are glad that you are the producer because you also have to filter me frequently, because when I get in conversations with my girlfriends, gal pals, whatever, I don't feel like it's inappropriate conversation, but you feel like it gets a little bit, I don't know.
Well, listen, here's the story. So, as many of you know, Bethany worked full-time at our church for 6.5 years, and then in December, she decided to have a midlife crisis and had to figure out what to do with her life, which I fully support.
Thank you.
But I am still employed and providing for our family through ministry vocation. So we have a saying around our house. Well, I have a saying around our house and life and every day, and probably more times a day than I'd like to admit. But where I say to Bethany, I still have a ministry job. And that is my subtle or not so subtle way of saying, like, honey, rein it in. Slow your roll. Put some guardrails up.
I can't be that inappropriate.
Yeah, you know.
All right, so then...
I'm not going to tell them. There's been things.
Don't tell them the things.
Well,
but I do want to know, of all the episodes that you had to filter your wife, which episode required the most filtering?
Well, essentially what happened is it was an episode with Sharifa, but essentially what you did is the most inappropriate thing that you said in the first season that I had to edit out, you decided to refer to again in the second season. And it also will make, after Bethany, or after I pass away and go on to be with Jesus, we'll release that or something like that.
I just have to say, we mentioned this in our recap last season.
It's very true.
And the messages I got of people that, like, I have to know. Like, we just, like, left them hanging. So maybe this is the episode where we can finally say it. No? I just want to say it to see if all of a sudden there's just blank.
Yeah, it's not.
If I say it now...
If you're going to say it's not going to be an episode that I am being recorded on.
Fair enough.
Learn how to use GarageBand and knock yourself out.
Okay, I guess we'll have to wait for next season. If Andy no longer has a ministry job, maybe you'll finally know the things that he has to filter
People
out.
are going to be praying for me not to have a ministry job? Okay.
Please don't do that. Okay, let's shift gears before I get myself in more trouble. We had quite a few episodes this season, at least for me, that were somewhat emotional. Some hard stories, people that have just walked some pretty intense roads. And so I know you're a guy and it's weird to be like something triggered emotion for you, but I actually do want to know, was there any episode, or maybe it can be more than one, an episode that, whether it be the story or what they shared, that really tugged your heartstrings?
Well, I do this early in the morning before anyone wakes up, so no one has to see all my tears. No, just kidding. No, there's a number. I mean, there was some real hard stuff. I mean, I know Kate's story, which we get to share here, which is powerful. It's powerful to hear it, though. Interesting that Brittany Crosby's episode, which was the most downloaded episode of the season, which is interesting.
Yeah, Brittany.
But I think it's because I know this person, and I don't know that it was it didn't have me like in tears the whole way, but I was just really moved by it, which was David Larson's. And there's a lot of reasons. Obviously, we have a relationship with David, but I think that was an example, and there's plenty of other examples in this season of where the podcast does something. It provides a space and a way to have a dialogue about things that a lot of social media and a lot of online platforms don't let you do in a very God-honoring way. Like, the best way I can say it is that most of social media is just reductionism. It just boils a complex issue down to like really terse, hard facts that aren't really good for conversation. But David, because of who he is and who God made him to be, and then because of your interview, and that was just a really powerful conversation, I thought. So that will stick with me. That's one that I think that we should go back and listen to and listen to again, and maybe a third time.
Yeah. No, I agree. I remember having the conversation with you after I got done interviewing David, which was powerful to just sit there and hear him tell a story, but telling you that this interview was something different. Like, there was just something special about his vulnerability and sharing, and man, the response to that interview, and still I get responses to that, people who are catching up or they went back and listened to it. So yeah, if you've not listened to that interview, I highly recommend it. It is really, really powerful. I appreciate you sharing your heartstrings being tugged, but let's swing the pendulum to the other side, because yes, there were moments of emotion and tears, but there were also some good laughs this season. And so I'm wondering, in your editing, was there an episode or episodes that you actually found yourself laughing out loud?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a number, but I think Sharifa takes the cake on that. There's just no question. I mean, she takes the bacon, maybe better way to say it, but she stole the bacon.
She is the bacon of people.
Yeah, she is that. I mean, honestly, it was like from the get-go. Like, she just, 90 seconds in, you're like, all right, I'm in. Like, let's just, this is going to be amazing. But, and that was the one that, too, like, just had that power of, like, at one moment you're laughing hysterically, and then the next moment it's like, mic drop, like that kind of thing. So, yeah, that was an amazing episode. Another one that was definitely stood out. I think she's someone that we have to have on the podcast again at some point.
Oh, yeah. I am committed to meeting her in real life.
Yes.
We will be real life friends.
Make this happen.
I vaguely remember sitting next to you. I think we were on a road trip when you were doing that edit. So you had like earbuds in, and I was cracking up because you were laughing, and I was trying to guess which part of the interview you were at, but I appreciated how often I was listening to you laugh out loud. Laurie and I actually, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but we have at times talked about having a competition, like some sort of tally marks for when we make you laugh out loud. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a goal of ours. I mean, no big deal. But speaking of Laurie, we brought in a new co-host this year, which was a big deal. We kicked off the entire season by Jen and I breaking up. It was heartbreaking, babe.
Yeah, I know. Well, I do miss Jen, but
yes,
Lori did a great job. No, she really did.
Who's Lori? I'm talking about Laurie.
Laurie. Oh gosh, whatever. Sorry,
my co-host,
Laurie.
Listen, Larry did great.
She was the best co-host of the season by far. The best.
No. You're gonna give her that?
Obviously, we've gotten to know her before this, and we thought she would do a great job. And part of the reason we chose her is because she brings a different perspective. We got married super young and had babies right away, and now we're older. Well, I don't know, but yeah,
we're so old.
We're so old.
So old.
But Lori's a young professional. She just got married. I mean, does amazing work in the marketplace, which also made it hard for us to get her to actually do the recording oftentimes because, well, that not only that, but also she's very social, and I think she has been a bridesmaid like 53 times this year. So,
you know what? I just had an aha moment. For months now, I've had this weird desire to watch the movie 27 Dresses, and I think it's been co-hosting with Laurie because I'm pretty sure she's been a bridesmaid 27 times since we started season 2.
Yeah.
It says a lot about her as a friend. Everybody wants her in their wedding.
Apparently, if you want to get married, you just get Laurie as a friend, and you're going to get married.
That's so true. I was just about to say if I get married again, I'll have her as a bridesmaid. But what you said was better, so we'll go with that. All right, so looking over this season as a whole, just as far as the side of it, us doing this podcast, we get asked sometimes from people who are interested in starting podcasts or...
Well, I have one other funny story in this season, which is Alicia, who we interviewed, who, like, I read her book, 2015, big year transition for me. Pastor gave me her book. It spoke incredibly into this hard season in my life, and God really used it in a powerful way. And I handed it to you. We've kind of worn this book out. We're like, we need to get her on the podcast. It was hard to get her on, not because of anything, like she wasn't unavailable, just scheduling was difficult. And and then you start the interview, and I find out that for the last 3.5 years I've been pronouncing her last name wrong.
Yes, I had the same thought. So you're referring to Alicia Sholey, which
I was calling Alicia Cole.
Yes. And what's so funny is going into that interview, I was actually talking to Laurie about this. I'm like, I'm so nervous to talk with her because you're only doing email, so it's what you read. I'm like, I don't know whether I say her name Alicia Cole or Alicia Cole, and I don't want to get it wrong. And so then I started the interview, and I was like, oh, can you say your name for sound check? Which I just gave myself away. If I've ever asked you to do that, I'm just making sure I pronounce it right. And she's like, my name's Alicia Sholey. And I was like, what? And I'm not kidding, right next to me. Can you see it?
Yeah,
I wrote it
phonetically. Yeah.
Phonetically, because I'm like, wow, the whole time I'm worried about getting her first name wrong, and I got her last name wrong.
Well, and that was like the perfect end of the season too. Her interview was unreal. So
that one is going down in the books for me as epic. Absolutely epic. So, okay, season as a whole. We went into this interviewing, like me setting up interviews, especially at the beginning of the year when I apparently was having this midlife crisis. I just kind of went hard after, all right, let's get some interviews down. And doors started opening that I didn't necessarily expect this season. Being able to interview people, I was like, wow, how am I talking to this person? But I'm wondering from your perspective, who are some of the interviews from this season that you were, I don't mean like in a negative way, but you were surprised that we were able to get on Hey Girl in just season 2?
Well, one of the ones that actually surprised me, not just because we were able to get her, but how the interview went was with Jen Wilkin, who's amazing, writes incredible Bible studies. And sometimes when you bring on authors, you kind of expect that they're going to kind of do their shtick, which is sort of this is what I talk about every time I do an interview, because it's normal. It's fine. And it's not always a bad thing. But I was really impressed with, she definitely brought out her passions, which is for the Word of God and for women to be women of the Word. But she also, I thought, and this part of it is you doing a good job interviewing, but really got into just realities of life and what life actually looks like on the ground. And that's been something that we've talked about a lot, is that we don't want to be afraid of bringing in people that might have a larger platform, but we also don't want to just be another podcast that just tells the same thing that you can hear in every other podcast when you see these people on there. So that was a cool one. I was surprised. I was really grateful that she came on, and I thought that what she shared had the passion in it, but it brought a lot of weight because of just she was vulnerable and real, and it was really great. So
I don't even know if I shared this with you, but I had a lot of women come to me after her interview in particular and thank us for interviewing her, because it brought new power and almost like a connection to her as they were doing her Bible study. They're like, it helped me so much to hear her talking and then go back and continue my study. Like, it just brought it to life. And obviously that was not on my mind at all as we were interviewing her, but I thought that was a cool just something that God did through her story.
Two other ones that kind of come to mind. One is one that I'd heard her interview on a sports podcast, and I was like, hey, we should try to get this person on. And again, I thought that the Hey Girl interview was even more powerful just because of what she shared and shared it with great wisdom. But Christina was great and works at the NFL. And the fact that maybe I can someday get a tour of the NFL offices.
It's true. She has offered when we're in New York City at the same time. So.
And we know this person, but I just thought it was awesome we get to share Regina's story. Regina is a rock star in my book, and we get to work with her for a lot of our conferences. But I just think that her and her husband and her whole family, they're just amazing. And it's not all pretty and roses. It's messy, but it's beautiful and it's passionate and it's for Jesus. And God's given her incredible influence, and I don't know, I want to be like her when I grow up. So
yeah, I've known her for a while. I still fangirl every time I see her. I just get so excited because she's pretty much a rock star in every book.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna throw in there my dream interview, which I will say this season as a whole, now that I look back, it would be hard for me to just pick one and be like, this was my dream, because there were so many that I absolutely loved. But I did say from the beginning that Jamie Ivey, because I had listened to her podcast, that having the opportunity to interview her, just that one kind of blew my mind as far as how am I sitting here actually talking to this person? This is crazy. And it also, I would say that interview in particular, up until that point, I don't think I imagined us doing to me, it's us, even now we're sitting here and the dog's laying at my feet. It feels very casual, and it kind of brought this wow, this is really starting to get traction. And the listeners, even just having a sponsor for the first time this season, there were just little things.
Go to prepdish.com/heygirl and sign up now.
Yeah, but seriously, it helps with our sponsorships when you check them out. And when you go to these links, it actually...
They let us know.
Yeah, they let us know. Oh, hey, we had this many people check it out.
Well, they don't tell us who you are. They just let us know that...
They tell us your name and your address and your social security number.
Not true.
Not at all. Just kidding. I think season 2 is definitely still going down in the books. Absolutely loved it. There are more interviews, and we were just looking over the list to remind ourselves, than we would ever have time to talk about in a wrap-up.
Oh, yeah.
But...
No, and I think the thing is, obviously we're doing a highlight reel, but the other power is just some of these stories that... And I think it was interesting that Alicia hit on this at the end, that we overemphasize uniqueness, that whole narrative that she brought in there, which I thought was just, I'm like, that is unbelievably powerful and a good reminder. And that's what we want to be about here, is God has put you in a unique spot and he's giving you a unique calling, but it isn't about just trying to differentiate yourself. It's about being obedient where God has you. So that's the power of this platform. So.
And Hey Girl wouldn't be where it's at without our lovely producer and the hours and hours and hours that you put in. And just throwing it out there, because a lot of people think that this is easier than it is to put together, but you really do invest a lot of hours in editing, in yelling at me to get my stuff done because I'm always behind.
We started off really good, like we normally do, and then, it had some bumps, but it's okay. We'll make some tweaks for season 3. We're going to change some things around, so.
Yeah.
We do have some ideas, so there's going to be, we're not changing a lot, but there's going to be some new things next season.
You got to keep freshening it up.
Yeah.
Keep it alive.
Absolutely.
And help our marriage be healthy.
So I don't think this is a segue, but make sure you do, when people send notes and stuff like that, that's fuel for us, and the reviews and stuff on iTunes. That's just one way that you can say thank you for all the work that Bethany and Laurie do.
Who's this Laurie you keep bringing up? Poor Laurie. She's going to wish she was here. Well, that's all I have. Anything else?
No, but I still have a ministry job, so that's good.
On that note, I would just like to say... No, just kidding.
One thing people can check out, this is me doing the shout out section, but Simply Beautiful Conference is coming up
Yeah.
in October 20th.
Which some of the people that were interviewed.
Well, you got to tell them who our special guest is at the conference, which we have to get her on the podcast too. But
can I give that away?
yes, you can. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so I have this new friend. Her name is Stephanie, and you need to know her. She's coming to speak at Simply Beautiful, and her husband actually used to serve here in New England at a church, but for how long have they been?
I think it's been around a decade, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, it's been a while that they've actually been out as the worship pastor at Saddleback Church in
this little sleepy church with Rick Warren as the pastor.
Yeah, Rick Warren gets to know her. So really, really excited. I met her at Simply Worship this year and instantly loved her. And I was like, could we get her? And I really did. I thought it was such a long shot. And when she came back and said yes, I could have peed myself a little.
Well, and then there's a lot of people from this season that will be there on the podcast. From the podcast that'll be at the event as well. So you just go to Berea, BEREA.org, and you can find Simply Beautiful on there and register and bring your teenage girls, and it's good for moms and mentors as well. We'd love to pack the house.
Nice. My last word, my last shout out is that this is a really good time to send in names or recommendations for, we can't guarantee that we can do all of them, but we only know so many people, and some of the greatest interviews that we've gotten the chance to do has been through somebody sending a name or connecting us with someone. So yeah, send it our way. We'd love to get some ideas and keep building our list for season 3 because we are excited. It's going to be awesome. All right. So girls, listeners, not just girls, and our closet male listeners, thank you again for all of your time this season, listening week after week, sharing it with your friends. We love you all. We definitely couldn't do this without you, and we can't wait to see you again for season 3. Have a great summer.